Maybe we should turn to something a little more hopeful, Tunisia. The only place where there really has been a compromise, which you very eloquently described, between the two forces we've been talking about, the Islamists, Ennahda, who won the first election. But then at a critical moment, the leader of Ennahda, Ghannouchi, decided to compromise with the secular old guard and had a meeting at the Bristol Hotel in Paris where the outlines of this compromise was worked out. Tunisia has suffered some for having done that. There have been vicious terrorist attacks too, notably, over the last year and a half or so. Why has Tunisia been different, do you think? And should we cling to that? Could it possibly offer some glimmerings elsewhere?
I think there are a lot of reasons why Tunisia is different, but for me it's really a wonderful object lesson in the way that individual leadership makes such a difference. There's a media mogul in Tunisia, sort of sees himself as...
Yeah, we haven't talked about leadership, I mean that...
Yeah, no, I think it makes so much difference. Yeah. There's a guy there Tunisian who sees himself as kind of a Tunisian Berlusconi. Very secular, hates Islamists, hates Ennahda, hates Ghannouchi. But I was in his office once, and he was talking about how this happened, how this rapprochement happened, where Ghannouchi and his counterpart, Begikaitis Sebsi, began to meet and brought along their respective political groupings. And this guy said, I hate to say it, but it was really Ghannouchi who saved the country. And for him to say that is really, really something. And I think it's, in a sense, true, because despite the fact that Ghannouchi's movement, Ennahda, is more sophisticated, much more sophisticated than the Brotherhood, it had to be pulled along by Ghannouchi. He was the one who recognized we have to step down, we have to form this technocratic government, and he laid all of his political weight on the line. Said, I'll step down, I'll...
They gave up power.
Yeah,
they didn't have to.
And I think it's wonderful to compare that, for instance, with Syria. It's tempting at times, of course, to say, well, look, this ancient sectarian stuff in Syria, it was just bound to fall back into the kind of violence we've had. That's not true. It wasn't inevitable. It depends on how leaders act. Bashar al-Assad decided to stoke the fires and behave in this horrible, irresponsible way. Tunisia is a place where, granted, the history was not as toxic, but you had a leader who behaved in the most responsible way possible, and it made such a difference.
Do you think it will hold? Do you think the Tunisian compromise will withstand the pressure that's being placed upon it already?
I think it's impossible to say. I mean, as you know, it's the economy that's the worst.
Yeah, tourism has been very hard hit.
Yeah,
right?
I mean, and they don't have. Yeah. I mean, it's a blessing and the curse. They don't have oil. They don't have a lot of these sources. But they may well suffer more terrorist attacks. I think we're going to have to see how they handle that. They need a lot of help, both with the economy and with security. I think the key, in a way, is going to be whether that movement succeeds in passing on the spirit of Ghannouchi, the leader, to the next generation. And there's some real signs for hope there, because some of the younger people in Ennahda are a lot like Ghannouchi. They have the same kind of long-term vision for the country. They have the same kind of patience, the willingness to make...
Well, Ghannouchi's interesting because he's a guy, an Islamist, who went to live in the West because he was exiled, lived in London for many years, and actually sat in London, which has just elected a Muslim mayor, and thought, hey, some of this liberal democracy's not so bad.
Ghannouchi's a fascinating guy. He was reading, Marx and Freud in his 20s, and that was actually before he became a kind of a political Islamist. Yeah. But then, in the 70s, he really admired some of what the Tunisian left was doing. Mm. Well, you look at other Islamist groups and their attitude, it was like, these people are, the worst. I mean, we wouldn't go near the leftist movements because they're heretics. Ghannouchi was always open-minded.